Hello, this is your host, Carrie Logan, and welcome to today's episode at Master the Upper Rooms. Today, I'm going to be talking about what is the difference between 3D and 5D consciousness. The quickest way to explain the difference between 3D and 5D consciousness is that one comes from the place of separation, and the other is a connection. Some people might need a visual example of the 17 levels of human consciousness, ranging from 3D, 4D, and 5D, to comprehend this concept and idea better. Anyone can download 2 free images, and a link is provided within the blog post I created. So let me give you an example of how a person perceives the world from a 3D human consciousness perspective. Imagine a man named Joe. He perceives the world solely from a physical standpoint. He views himself as separate from others, and the main driving factor in his life is fear and survival. To Joe, life is a competition, and his father taught him at a young age that one must take what one wants in this world. The world never hands you anything. So, in Joe's eyes, he must do what it takes to win, just like his father. Joe wants to please his father. So it is like the survival of the fittest, and Joe is determined to win this game of life. Joe's mother is relatively passive and quiet. She is beautiful and complacent. She did not grow up in the United States, but could speak so-so English and could make friends easily if necessary. However, she prefers spending time alone, doing crafts, watching TV, spending time with her dog, or attending her husband's social gatherings. She loved Joe in her own way, but Joe did not connect with her in the same manner as his father. Joe realized at a young age that his father was a leader and his mother, well, not, in his father's opinion. She was good at being a wife, mother, housewife, and hostess, but nothing more. Joe's dad preferred his wife to be this way, but in Joe's mind and fragile heart, they never connected. She was miles away, and Joe felt isolated and alone when his father was away. So when his father was around, he clung to his father's every demand and wish. On a side note, deep down inside, Joe is rather talented at painting, but his father soon tried to plant the seed of being an artist is not a manly career choice. In his father's mind, being an artist was a waste of time. Joe would be poor and starving, and his father refused to support Joe's dreams financially. His dreams of becoming a famous painter one day was ridiculous and childish in his father's mind. Growing up and being a man, his father would say, just grow up. So whenever Joe got out his paints and enjoyed his hobby, his father would shame Joe about his hopes and dreams, encouraging him to give up that stupid hobby. Eventually, Joe let go of his dreams when he was around 12 years old and did what his father thought was best. Soon, Joe would be a teenager, and he needed to plan his future and realistic career path. After college, when Joe was hired as a stockbroker, he quickly learned the social norms or societal norms of how to dress, look a certain way, and gain status and respect from others. Joe has a powerful, high-paying job that he hates, but he knows it is what his father wants for him, even though secretly Joe still wishes to escape the rat race someday and become an artist, maybe after his father dies. So Joe dives into his career and starts to play the part of a successful cutthroat stockbroker. Some of Joe's successes go to his head, and in some way Joe begins to lose himself in this new high-powered lifestyle. Joe becomes relatively wealthy and good at his job. He has learned the art of brown-nosing and getting people to do what he wants. Joe drives an expensive fancy car and surrounds himself with people of the same status and power. Joe is silently envious of others' wealth and position in life. Yet deep down inside, Joe fears that someone one day will steal his job, wealth, possessions, or a lovely wife, because Joe knows that one day a young, hungry stockbroker will join his team and outshine everyone in the department. Then the chopping block will come out, and there will be a fight for who will stay and who will get chopped into little pieces. Joe knows people are disposable at his job. He has witnessed several friends fall into despair because the job is stressful and intense. So Joe is always guarded, paranoid, suspicious, and ready to fight. Since Joe struggles with self-esteem issues, he likes to flirt with the ladies to feel better about himself. Joe has crossed the line several times by cheating on his wife, but what his wife doesn't know won't hurt her. Joe is very black and white in his thinking. He loves his wife in his way, but knows he could find a replacement quickly. He's also suspicious that his wife might be cheating on him too. Yet Joe does not have time for that sort of drama. So Joe distracts himself with booze and networking late into the evening. Because Joe's career choice has an exciting life, he can't miss out on either excitement, the wealth, the material possessions, and as a result of Joe's career choice, he has been rather vain. He's cocky, arrogant, and treats people indifferently. He knows that his social circle determines his worth, so he does his best to charm and flatter people to win them over. Joe's fulfillment is found solely in making massive amounts of money, having a trophy wife by his side, living a lavish lifestyle, and building his social status. This is precisely what his father dreams for Joe, and Joe knows his father is incredibly proud of him. Yet, Joe has lost a few good friends over the years because Joe has turned into a person they no longer like or respect. But Joe doesn't see it that way. He believes they are jealous and envious of his success. Yet this is farther from the truth. And Joe is not a nice person. His friends try to encourage Joe to think for himself and stop people-pleasing his father. But Joe will not listen. In Joe's eyes, his father is God and knows what is best in winning the game of life. Therefore, in Joe's mind, one's thoughts have no power over their reality. He thinks this concept is stupid. He believes what comes your way is simply by working hard, taking it from someone else, or luck. There are moments in Joe's life where he does have joy, but still it's from a 3D human consciousness perspective. There is nothing but hardship, long hours at office, pain, struggle, and roller coaster emotions that can be difficult to manage, especially when he goes into a fit of rage or anger when things don't go his way. Joe has heard of alternative forms of self-help, and his wife has suggested counseling, but admitting that one needs help is a sign of weakness, not a strength. So Joe has no desire to go within and change. Joe is just skimming on the surface of life, and his main goal is to win. To make Joe feel better about himself, he enjoys putting people in their place by cutting them down, slight insults, and appearing more intelligent and successful than other people, while having a condescending tone of voice. And Joe knows all the tricks of manipulation, backstabbing, blame shifting, projecting, and lying. Have you ever met someone like that? Can you relate? It can sound like a few people's employers that I've dealt with in the past. So now I want to give you another example of 3D human consciousness. And I must give a trigger warning for this example. This might hit home for a few people, and it does for me. This happens to 1 million people every year in the United States. So, imagine a woman named Sue. Sue is a bundle of joy. She's in high school and loves her life. She was happy, optimistic, and full of life. She is kind, thoughtful, respectful, and makes friends quickly. When her parents divorced, it was difficult for her to go back and forth from mom's to dad's house, but she dealt with it. She still loved both her parents, even though she knew her dad was abusive to her mom growing up, was a workaholic, and drank too much. What Sue was passionate about in life was gymnastics. She loved gymnastics, and her mom did everything she could to support Sue's hopes and dreams because she was highly talented. Sue hoped and dreamed of one day being in the Olympics. Her father did not have time in his busy schedule to support Sue's so-called hobby. His opinion didn't hurt Sue's feelings, but with her mom backing her 100%, Sue quickly got over how her father thought and felt about her future life goals. Sue's mom was her best friend, and she loved her deeply. She could talk to her mom about anything and knew her mom was special. One day, as her mother was driving Sue to a gymnastics competition that would have talent scouts attending, a white Dodge Ram truck ran a red light and slammed into the driver's side of the vehicle. The impact totaled the car, and Sue's mom was seriously injured. Sue was so scared and disoriented when the firefighters arrived at the scene. She prayed that God would not take her mom away from her, but her mom passed away on the way to the hospital. Sue was in critical condition and was lucky to still be alive. When she arrived at the hospital, the doctors discovered that she had experienced a traumatic brain injury, broke several bones, and would have to learn how to walk, talk, and eat again, and live without her mom. This appeared to be Sue's biggest nightmare. Her whole life was turned upside down in a split of a second. Would or could life return to normal again? Sue thought, as she slipped away on the operating room table. When reality sank in, Sue was devastated and contemplated whether life was worth living. Sue's future and goals now seemed like a distant dream that floated away from her. Life would never be the same, and now Sue had to face reality and this new horrible life of being permanently disabled. When Sue finally recovered and was released from her father's care, miles away from the life she cherished and loved, she quickly realized how perfect her life was when her mom was alive. Now living with her father was a slow death in her mind. Her father did not know how to handle the situation. He could barely manage his own life. He did not have the coping skills, tools, and education, and how to be a supportive parent like Sue's mother. So to avoid feeling bad about himself, he became cold and distant, always focused on his work, and rarely spent time with her. Sue's primary form of social interaction was with disability support workers and routine visits to doctors' offices. When she learned that gymnastics was no longer an option, she fell into a deep depression. She felt guilt about the car accident, even though it was not her fault. She felt hopeless, withdrawn, and afraid. Sue was no longer living a life she loved. She was existing with no hope in sight. One would say that Sue's 4D life vanished in a blink of an eye, and now she was stuck in the harsh world of 3D. Can anyone relate? 1/3 of all trauma leads to death, and 80 to 90,000 people a year will suffer from long-term disability due to trauma. That is why I say everyone needs to be trauma informed so we can support each other better. Now, do not worry, I'm going to take both of these examples and spin it into 5D, so there is light at the end of the tunnel. Now, I know time is precious, and so what I've decided to do is to break this into segments. So the next one will be about 4D human consciousness, because people want to know. And then on the 5D, I'm going to spin the story of Joe and Sue. Okay? So I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Thank you for listening. I really hope this podcast, speaks to you and it kind of wakes you up and gives you new ways of thinking and kind of perceiving things. So until then, enjoy this song and have a great day.